welcome Tony Rigdon to speak to us today for our second installment of Eat, Listen, Learn, presented by the Dean's team. Pretty much I'm going to let Tony talk about his trials and tribulations from starting triathlons, being injured, and his road to recovery. So I'm going to let him take it away and talk about what he would like to talk about for today.
All right, thanks everyone for having me here. I appreciate it. I was definitely taken off guard when I got the email inviting me here, and but I'm looking at it as a great opportunity. I love coming back to campus, and a lot's changed since I was here. I actually used to be the IT guy for the science department, and unfortunately I left before this building was completed, so this is my first time in this classroom, and I'm just amazed, you know, everything here, great technology. And so anyways, I got this email asking me to come and talk about my experience, my recovery from what they refer to as a TBI, traumatic brain injury. And fortunately, I actually didn't have a traumatic brain injury, so I wasn't sure if they still wanted me to come. After emailing them, explaining what exactly I had, they were, you know, well, yeah, we'd still like you to come and talk about your recovery. So that's what I'm here to do, is talk about my recovery from my injury. But also I want to talk about some passions of mine. I came here and I got a degree in computer science. Unfortunately, I'm really not that passionate about computers. Computers are great, and yeah, I make decent money. I work for a nonprofit as their computer guy. But my passions are actually physical fitness, and more recently financial fitness, and even more recently emotional fitness. And so of course, I've heard that right now you guys are in midterms, or midterms about ready to start, and so, you know, there's 3 F's that I want everyone here to get. But no, they aren't related to your tests. I want everyone to be fit physically, fit financially, and fit emotionally. And however, I'm actually not qualified to tell you guys how to do all these things. So what I'm going to do is share my story, how I'm not perfectly fit in all these areas, but I'm well on my way. And I'm just going to share my story, how I got there. And also I'm going to throw in there, just have fun, don't take yourself too seriously. That's kind of one of my mottos in life. Saw this on a friend's Facebook page. It's not that diabetes, heart disease, and obesity runs in your family, it's that no one runs in your family. And so as most of y'all are, I think, health-related areas of study, you understand that obesity and lack of fitness is definitely an epidemic in our society. I arrived at Truman in 2001. I was 27 at the time. I was slightly overweight, and I moved into my parents' basement here in Kirksville, Missouri. And so those, as a single guy at the time, those are, you know, things that, you know, I wasn't happy with. I was actually almost in a state of depression. I had been attending College of the Ozarks, and I was a senior at College of the Ozarks, had 18 credits left to graduate from College of the Ozarks with a degree in computer science. And rather than go into the details on that, I just have a quick video I'll play here.
This is KY3 News at 6.
College of the Ozarks, a school which bills itself as one that encourages the moral development of its students, is now under investigation for allegedly encouraging those same students to mishandle and possibly bury hazardous waste. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Department of Natural Resources suspects the hazardous waste may be buried somewhere on campus, which overlooks Lake Taneycomo.
Elizabeth Manresa joins us now with more on this exclusive KY3 investigation. Elizabeth, how did the DNR find out about this, and are we just talking about students?
Well, the DNR found out about it from an anonymous tip. And no, we're not just talking about students. Students were allegedly directed to bury and dump hazardous waste by staff members of College of the Ozarks. Now, for the past few days, I have been looking into the allegation that C of O has buried hazardous waste on its 1,000-acre campus that you can see part of here behind me. Now, the reason students may have been involved is because the unique policy that College of the Ozarks requires its students to work at several different job sites on campus, such as the meat processing plant, a construction site, the agricultural department, just to name a few. But just as you mentioned, as the college promotes good work ethic and high moral standards, it's those standards that may have motivated some students to turn their college into authorities.
When you got stuff like that, using their students to bury hazardous waste, you know, chance sending a double message.
That message comes from the College of the Ozarks, a school that prides itself on teaching its students to grow academically and spiritually, while encouraging strong moral character. In fact, it's one of the school's selling points. But some students say the school is not practicing what it preaches.
Gates of opportunity.
Former student Tony Rigdon claims that C of O has been dumping and burying hazardous waste on its campus. Rigdon says students who work on campus were made to bury hazardous materials from different job sites. These allegations led the Department of Natural Resources to conduct an on-site inspection of the campus.
Basically, we found that they do have some relatively serious problems in their painting department as far as waste identification and management.
The inspection report cites specifically failure to properly store hazardous waste, failure to keep containers closed during storage, failure to label waste as hazardous, and the list just goes on and on and on. DNR also found solid waste dump sites like this. And school officials have told DNR investigators they may know of one site where waste may be buried.
It is fairly close to Lake Taneycomo. If something was there, leaches into the groundwater, it can affect drinking water wells. It could leach out into the lake.
But until the site is excavated, it's anyone's guess as to how much damage has been done to the environment or the college. A college built not only on the foundation of the Ozark Hills, but on a foundation of integrity.
If they're going to take such a strong stance on character to really, truly do what they're preaching.
So Tony Rigdon no longer is a student at College of the Ozarks, and he admits he was kicked off campus, or out of school actually, twice for violating the school's no alcohol tolerance policy. Now he says he's admitted to his mistakes, and he just wants the college to do the same. And actually, Tony says he still would like to finish his degree at C of O. Now, as far as the DNR inspection goes, the college has 15 days to respond to that inspection report. And the Dean of Admissions, Larry Cockrum, told me today on the phone that he will not respond until that time. Tony, Christina?
Elizabeth, the campus covers a lot of ground there. How are they going to find these alleged waste burial sites?
Well, that's exactly the problem. They have pinpointed a few areas where they think they might be, but because this land is so huge, there's no way they can find them unless they have tips from students or faculty who maybe want to come forward and tell them where they think those sites are, if they've been a party to that. They have requested that those students or faculty that want to come forward call the Department of Natural Resources, and I believe that phone number is on your screen, and you can call them if you'd like to talk to them or if you know anything about that. All right, Elizabeth Manresa, as this investigation continues, I know so will your coverage on this topic. Thank you. Definitely, you're welcome. Now, this process will be a very long and a complicated one. Once the college responds to DNR's report, investigators will evaluate that response and send the information on to Jefferson City. Based on the college's cooperation and the extent of damages, the DNR will then decide if a fine is warranted. If a fine is issued, the money will be put in the state education fund. Either way, DNR will continue to investigate and monitor the college to see if they're correcting their actions.
So basically, when I got here, I was actually in the middle of a lawsuit with College of the Ozarks and initially I tried to stay there and I tried to get an injunction to stay there, but then they were also being investigated, as you can see, and I got other videos, but I won't play those, where they actually dug up contaminated soil with like lead-based paints, paint thinners, fluorescent light bulbs, tires, all kinds of hazardous stuff that they didn't want to pay the money to have hauled off. They were instead just burying it on their campus. So I ended up at Truman State University, 18 credits short of graduating from College of the Ozarks, but as you guys all know, Truman State University has a lot of I don't want to say hoops you have to jump through, but really that's what they are. To, do your LSLs, whatever those, all those different classes you have to take. So I ended up going from 18 credits left to ending up taking, I think it was around 60 credit hours here before I finally was able to graduate. So here I am, I'm living in my parents' basement, out of shape, a little bit overweight, and I had some friends that invited me to come back to Branson to run in a 5K with them. And as a kid I'd run a little bit, but I never enjoyed it. And I could never understand people that would run like a marathon and like run for 26 miles nonstop. That's just ridiculous, I thought. But I used to love watching, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Chariots of Fire, but that was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. And so I definitely, I loved competition. And so when I went ahead and signed up for this 5K and went down there, the cool thing is that you do a 5K and you never know, you could show up and there's only a couple people in your age group and you could end up placing your age group. And so here I am, my first 5K, and I was still on the overweight side. I ended up third in my age group and got this little wooden trophy with a piece of coal and a light bulb, and because it was a power plant run. And I just thought that was so cool. And so then I started training. And then I also discovered the Triathlon and Running Club, which unfortunately I don't think exists anymore here at Truman, but there is a Kirksville multi-sport club. And I did find a running club, but it looks like their info's from last semester still, so I don't know if they're still current or not. But so I got plugged into this Triathlon and Running Club, and in the process lost about 45 pounds. And this was my first multi-sport race. I had done one as a 15-year-old kid, but this is my first multi-sport race in 12 years. And it was the Wild Wings Duathlon, and I ended up getting second overall in that race. And so I was totally hooked. And a group of us from Truman went on down to Memphis, Tennessee for the Collegiate National Championships in 2002. And we did that. We had a men's and women's contingent. And then this a little bit later, we did the 2004 race for Sight. But there was a group of us that were just traveling all over the Midwest and doing as many races as we could. And so finally in 2004, I graduated with my computer science degree. I should mention that in 2001, I ended up going on staff full-time in the IT department and just taking classes part-time. I'd take 9 to 12 credit hours a semester while working full-time. Awesome thing about that is I got like this 75% discount, I think it was. So finally in 2004, I graduated. I was working full-time here in the science department, and I was also racing a lot. You can see there, like 2001 was my first year. I think I did about 8 events, and then the next year I almost doubled that, and I just kept increasing the number of races I was doing. And in 2003, 2004, I was doing a lot of races in Columbia, Missouri with this company called Ultramax Events. At the time, they were part of Missouri Lions Eye Research Foundation, and they were a fundraiser for the Missouri Lions Eye Research Foundation. So they actually had a position open up as their logistics director, and they asked me if I was interested in doing that. So I thought, well, here I am, I'm doing all these races, and here's an opportunity to actually work in a related field, what I enjoy. So I agreed, and so I moved down to Columbia and started working for Ultramax and racing with the Columbia Multisport Club. And I actually brought a stack of brochures. If any of y'all are from Columbia or just the Midwest area, it's a great club. I'm still an active member. But we travel all over doing like the club national championships. This picture here is from Houston, Texas, and it's hugely a subsidized trip. It's for college students, it's a very reasonable price. Like, it includes, anyways, they totally subsidize the trip. It's a great experience. Roland Clark has done it twice. Yeah, so it's an awesome time. I'm working for Ultramax now as a logistics director, but then I had the computer science degree, and they wanted to get their own timing equipment. So we purchased this timing equipment, and it's fairly complicated to run. It uses these little RFID chips that are activated when you cross mats, and that's how they keep track of your time. So at this point, I'm the only person running this. Now they have 2 or 3 people that run the events and do the timing. So I was a little in over my head, working long hours, getting ready for races, and in March of, no, it was April of 2006. We had this one race, the J-Dix 5K, 10K, that I was getting ready to time. I think I stayed up until probably 2 or 3 in the morning, getting all the timing tips ready, getting all the files ready to time the race. And the next morning, I get there at 4 in the morning, get all the timing loops set up across the ground, work all day getting those results done. Then I load up my car, drive to Cape Girardeau to help a friend time a race at a triathlon down there. And this friend of mine, he had the same timing equipment, and he's also a triathlete, so he wanted to do the race. So I was going to time the first half of the race. It was wave starts. I was going to time the first half, and then once he got done, he was going to take over the timing, and I was going to jump in and do the race. And so that's what we did. And so he finishes the race. I jump in, and I had one of the best swims of my life at the time. And it's a pool swim, and they start in heats. And my heat started, I was one of the first out of the pool. And I was out in the transition area on my bike, and I had this really sweet Cannondale tri-bike. And I had just gotten it reworked. I had like brand new carbon fiber handlebars, a brand new tri-spoke front wheel, and this thing was decked out. It was awesome, and this is my first ride on it since it got redone. And I'm out flying on the bike course, and at some point, I'm not exactly sure when, like I can remember up until probably 4 or 5 miles into the race, and then everything's like, I don't remember any of it, so it's all just from, police reports and whatnot. But I'm cruising along, going straight, probably doing 24, 25 miles an hour, which is around what I averaged back then, and there was a van coming towards me. And I guess they misjudged how fast I was going and how fast they could turn. And they just basically turned right into me, and we just collided head on. And so here's the police report. This is an image from the police report. And so there's little dotted lines up there. That's my path, and that's the van's path. And then the A is where the bike ended up, and the B is where my body ended up, apparently. And so here's a newspaper, or actually this is off the internet. It mentions how Rigdon is reported to have lost most of his teeth, had many facial breaks and fractures, and has a broken collarbone, as well as injuries to his hands and stomach. And at the very end it says the van is said to have looked like it took out a telephone pole. And so that telephone pole was me. And it's funny because I've talked to people since then that were in the race that rode by and saw me. I had a very distinctive rear wheel, and so they knew, when they saw that, they knew who it was. But apparently I was still moving on the ground, but I don't have any recollection. So I don't know if I was knocked out completely or what, but, so there's my bike. That's my brand new carbon fiber tri-spoke, and those pieces are my handlebar all smashed up. And you can see there that the frame is like just about split through, and that's an aluminum frame, which you think aluminum can, you don't think it's very stable, but those are very strong frames. And then there's my face. Since my left eye socket was fractured, and then you can see this next picture. You can see better how my the teeth are lower on that side. That's because my jaw is split right there, and my teeth, of course, you can see they're ground down. Fortunately, I actually only lost one tooth. That article had said they lost most of my teeth, but fortunately, I only lost one tooth. But I actually hadn't really noticed this, but you can kind of tell that my face is a little crooked, and it's because my mandibular condyle is kind of like a ball and socket. The mandibular condyle was sheared off and was like offset, so my jaw would be crooked like this, and then if I closed my teeth, then it would move back. And then let's see what else we have here. That's my shoulder. I didn't have a broken collarbone, so that was one blessing. It's my knee. Ended up with stitches on both my knees, but That's my other broken bone would be my trapezium. I have a comminuted fracture of my trapezium. And that one they didn't actually catch. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks where I kept on having hand pain and I didn't have very good grip, and I kept on going back to the doctor saying there's something messed up with this. And they finally sent me to a specialist, and the specialist finally identified what it was. It was a comminuted fracture of the trapezium that was bothering me. And so here we are. That's, I think, about a week later. That's after surgery. And so what they ended up doing was going through my ear. There's like a scar, you can't really see it, but they did a really good job of that, where they cut that, peeled it back, and put a titanium plate in there to hold the mandibular condyle together. And what they should have done is they should have wired my jaw shut. But my girlfriend at the time told them that I did not breathe through my nose very well. I mostly breathed in my mouth. So she was afraid that I would have a hard time breathing if they wired my jaw shut. So what they did was they put just like plates where they could rubber band it and to kind of keep it stabilized with rubber bands. But what my girlfriend didn't realize or didn't tell them is that I grind my teeth at night. And so, anyways, I have my jaw not wired shut but rubber band, so I'm still only able to eat like, liquid foods. I ended up losing like another 20, 30 pounds and got down to like 140 or so, which for a guy my size, especially, basically I lost a lot of muscle, and my girlfriend told me I looked like a concentration camp survivor, after I was all healed. But, so since I grind my teeth at night, my jaw didn't set. Instead, I started flexing that titanium plate. And so then here I am, I finally get recovered, and I start training again, and I start putting on some weight back on, getting fit. I go in for a follow-up with my oral surgeon, and he like looks at me, he's like, I can see there's something wrong. He's like, let's do an x-ray. He takes an x-ray, and he's like, wow, I've never seen this happen before, but your titanium plate, you broke your titanium plate. And so your jaw is like right back where it was before the surgery. And so of course I'm thinking, great, I had another surgery, but fortunately we didn't have to do that. So this picture here is kind of gross, but when they did the surgery, they accidentally, or I shouldn't say accidentally, but, well, yeah, they nicked a nerve. I guess there's so many nerves in there. So now if I like raise my eyebrows, only the left side of my face responds. And like if I tap my face, it's kind of numb like through here. And then for the longest time, I couldn't close my eye. And so this is actually, I'm actually asleep in this picture. And for probably 2 weeks or so, when I'd fall asleep, my eye would still be open, my eyeball would just roll back. It's kind of freaky. But they had to give me like this goop that I'd stick in my eye when I went to sleep, otherwise my eye would dry out. So, I finally find out that my jaw had broken, or my titanium plate had broken. My jaw had never set. So they wire my jaw shut. And I'm told it's going to be wired shut for 4 to 6 weeks. And this time I've gotten back in shape. And this time I'm not going to lose my fitness, and I'm not going to lose weight again. So I'm, going to Andy's frozen custard. I'm eating everything I can to maintain my weight. And then I'm still training and racing as much as I can with the jaw wired shut. And I actually was looking for a different job at this time as well. And I actually went to several interviews with my jaw wired shut. So it's funny. You actually can get pretty good at talking with your jaw wired shut. So then I'm out driving down Providence, and I'm cruising along. It's a 45, 50 mile an hour speed zone. I noticed that all this traffic in the right lane is stopped. I'm like, why are they stopped? I'm cruising along, coming up to an intersection, and then I see there's a fire truck just about to come in the intersection. I'm like, oh, that's why they're stopped. So I hit my brakes, came to a stop just before the intersection, but the car behind me did not see me stop, and they hit me 50 miles an hour. So this is that car that hit me, and this is the car I was driving, and my head hit the steering wheel, and I felt all the wires just, and so I get out of the car, I'm all shook up. The fire truck stops in that intersection and just tends to our accident, and they sent someone else to whatever they were going to. And actually, my oral surgeon actually drove through the intersection like shortly after and saw me, and he realized I'd be coming in to see him later that day. So I ended up losing like the 2 weeks, because I've been wired shut for those 2 weeks. I ended up losing those 2 weeks and had to get rewired shut, and then an additional 2 weeks. So finally, though, in I think it was September of that year. This is a week after getting my jaw unwired. I actually came up to I was signed up to do Nemo, the local triathlon. My girlfriend wouldn't let me do it. I should have just done it anyways, but I was like training and running with, I would have cutters, like taped, like underneath my running shorts, just in case I had to cut the wires, like for some reason. But otherwise, I wanted to stay in shape, and I actually did a 5K with like a week after I got wired shut. So I got used to running and racing with my teeth clenched. So this is my first race back unwired, and so all the photos from it are kind of funny because my teeth are clenched. And there you can see, I do have one rubber band in there. I still had the thing where I could do the rubber band, but I could have opened my mouth more, but I was so used to it at this point, just running with my teeth clenched. So that's the finish. So that was the 2006 Club Championships with the Columbia Multisport Club. And that was a really cool event because Little Columbia, Missouri was coming out to California, and the LA Tri Club were convinced they were going to win it. And I actually joined the LA Tri Club as a spy, and they had no idea. And I was getting their emails and forwarding them to our club. And there's actually one of the people that said, if Columbia beats us, I'm going to take up scrapbooking. And so when we beat them, we like send them a scrapbook. So this is 2011. This is probably one of my. This is my PR race in Austin, Texas. I did a 1:23 half marathon. I got to run with Lance Armstrong. I don't know if you can see me there. I'm right behind him. I was actually beating him through the first 5 miles, and then he caught up to me. I ran with him for 2 miles. There's a group of us, and then he slowly pulled away from me. And I was pretty suspicious at the time, but we all know now he was guilty. And then that's Joe Benoit Samuelson. And it was so cool because I finished, and like literally 20 seconds behind me, Joe Benoit Samuelson finished. And if y'all don't know, she's the first winner of the women's marathon. She won a gold medal for the U.S. in 1984, I believe it was. So that was so cool to finish. And here she is, she's like 50-something years old, and she's finishing right behind me, so she's incredible. She still runs marathons. I think she qualified for the Women's Olympic Trials in 2008 as a 50-year-old. She's still running like a sub-250 marathon. So, and then this is also from 2011. This is the Topeka 10-man, which I won. This is one of my best races in that I was behind coming off the bike, but my running. In 2011, I really concentrated on my running, and I ran my half marathon PR, my 5K PR, and I ran under 5 minutes for a mile, which is the first time I've done that. And then so this is winning the Topeka 10-man triathlon. I came back and made up like 2 minutes in the 3-mile run. So then I just kind of threw this in here just to, because I'm kind of a goofy jokester. I like having fun, and so just encourage everyone to have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. This is a Nemo triathlon. I was told that my running triathlon suit looked like a superhero suit, so I made a cape and started wearing a cape. And then I became the Columbia Multisport Club CMC man, and at the club championships I wear this cape and mask. And then I came up to Kirksville for St. Patty's and wore green. And people were probably shocked to see this weirdo running through town, and I don't know if I'd do that still today, but I did win that race as well, so it was all right. I should say 2011. And then occasionally I'll do goofy races. So that's me. That's on an ostrich that I made, following on an ostrich. When I'd done this in a previous year where I was a cowboy on an ostrich, and it's an obstacle course, and it took so long to get through it. So this time, instead of actually riding the ostrich, I took it all off, and then I had like a red Speedo on. And I had a throttle in a red Speedo. And it's kind of creepy. If it didn't go straight. So, and then that same day I did a bike race. It was a cyclocross race. And then I went to a Mizzou football game. And people really thought I was Ronald. Like, I actually went into the game, and people were like stopping me to get their photos taken with me. So that was a lot of fun. And this is something I actually haven't done yet, but I was all ready to try to send this to Geico to see if they would sponsor me to travel around and have this on the side of the van and be the caveman racing team. Because so that brings up another thing that I want to talk just briefly about, and that's financial fitness. And I came to Truman, which is a great school, and I didn't have too much debt, but I did have some, and a lot of that was because the money was there. I'm a student, you can get student loans, and it's like, ooh, wow, I could get another $5,000 this year, and I don't necessarily need it, but I could eat out a little more, I could, drive a little nicer car. And so I ended up with probably close to $30,000 in student loan debt by the time I was done with school. And so I just wanted to bring this up. Just that daily decisions can make a huge impact in your life. These are just some examples. I'm hoping no one in here smokes, but if you do, it's, let's say you spend $3 a day, it costs you $90 a month. If you were to invest that at 12%, which I know sounds like a lot, but it is doable, you could end up with $11 million if you were to do that from 16 to 76. You invested $90 a month. So these are just some numbers to throw out there just to think about, as far as like, if you graduate with a student loan, let's say you have $100,000 student loan debt. You might make a lot, but it's still going to take you a long time to pay that off. If you could, work a little more and take out a little less money and graduate with a little less debt and start winning with money a lot quicker. Here's something I wish someone had shown me when I was younger. These are two people. One started saving $2,000 and he saved that for 7 years. And the other one invested, started late, and he had to save for a lot longer. He never caught up with Ben. And it's just amazing what happens with money when you can start investing early, and with compounding interest, what will happen. If instead you graduate from college with a ton of student loan debt, you work for 10, 20 years paying that off before you can actually start saving your money, you're going to be a lot further behind than if you can start early. So I started late, but once I started, I was really intense about it. I took this class called Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. I brought the materials if anyone wants to check it out at the end. But the 5th lesson of the class is all about dumping debt, and he talks about being gazelle intense about it. And so I decided to be gazelle intense about dumping debt, and I posted these pictures on Facebook every week, like what my debt level was. And I said I will not shave my beard or cut my hair until I pay this off, and donations accepted. I was really hoping like my mom would send me a bunch of money. She actually did send me some money, but because she didn't like the hair. But so I had fun with it, and I had people tell me that I inspired them to save money and pay out their debt as well. Here's another having fun with it. That's week 13. I'm down to $4,100 at that point, and then finally week 19. I was debt free, and so I basically in 17 weeks I was able to pay off $17,000, and most of that was through selling a lot, or I shouldn't say most, but a lot of it was through selling stuff. But it was cool. The church I go to that I was taking the class through, they had a celebration about, so I got a video of that.
Welcome to the Golden Gazelle Awards Ceremony. We're going to spend the day celebrating the life change that's happened through Financial Peace University this semester. This is the kind of celebration where tuxedos, cummerbunds, and fedoras are in order. The kind of celebration that's capable of taking down even the most trustworthy sound system. We're going to give out a few awards to some people that have begun some steps in their journey towards financial peace. And we're going to begin today with this award. Extreme Commitment to Getting Out of Debt. And the winner is Tony Rigdon.
Tony has made a commitment to not shave or cut his hair until he gets out of debt. He has 17 combs and a VW van named Bob.
Wow, this is so exciting. I've always wanted a pet, and this low budget pet, so that's good. What a journey! It's crazy to think it was only 5 months ago that I saw something on Facebook about Woodcrest and momentum and this big push to get everyone in the congregation that would to go through Financial Peace University. I knew about Dave Ramsey. I had heard about Gazelle Intensity, and I knew about the whole envelope system. I just hadn't gotten on board with it yet. So thanks to Woodcrest for providing this opportunity. Thanks to Dave Ramsey for the biblical financial principles and the common sense principles, which aren't so common anymore. And thanks to Brad and Kimberly Ernest, as well as Thel Sargent, all of whom attend Woodcrest and encouraged me to become a part of the Momentum movement. And thanks to my parents for their biblical leadership, and especially my mom here on Mother's Day. Mom, I promise I will shave soon, I hope. Love you, Mom. When FPU started for me on January 30th, I had $17,333 of unsecured debt, as well as a mortgage on my house. I wasn't in a financial bind, but I was definitely living slightly above my means, and my unsecured debt continued to grow. As I took the class, I began to realize that I was unaware of where my money was going. Once I realized this, I found areas I could save or cut back in. I began to cut things out, things like cable, internet, smartphone, Hulu, Netflix. I was able to cut out over $300 worth of unnecessary monthly expenditures. I didn't have any kids to sell, but I did sell a car, a bike, a gun, computer monitor, shoes. All told, I've sold about $6,000 worth of stuff. I dropped out of an awesome and cheap ski trip with a bunch of friends and fellow Woodcresters because Dave Ramsey said, no vacation while working on the debt snowball. A big part of my debt problem was also that I'm very active in triathlons and running races. But once I started taking the class, I realized I needed to cut back on these. I couldn't race every weekend like I wanted to. Instead, I've been provided with an opportunity to work at some of these races, timing. And this is helping work on my financial peace instead of racing all the time. In addition to the accountability that this small group at Momentum provided, after lesson 5, the dumping debt lesson, I decided I would go ahead and go all in and become Gazelle Intense. I shredded 10 credit cards and came up with the idea to not cut my hair or shave my beard until my remaining $14,771 of unsecured debt was paid off. Since then, I've been using Facebook to increase my momentum instead of in paying off his debt by posting weekly profile pictures. These pictures have served to hold me accountable to my friends as well as inspire and encourage others. In the 15 weeks since FPU started at Woodcrest, I've managed to reduce my unsecured debt by $13,000. I'm going to continue on with the baby steps, Lord willing, finishing my debt snowball by July. Baby step 3 will hopefully be done quick, and I plan to have my house paid off in 2 to 3 years. I'm excited and looking forward to the freedom to pursue my passions and do as God leads. I have to keep reminding myself, though, that like physical fitness, financial fitness is not a destination you reach and then you can relax. Fitness takes continued effort. Relax, and everything you've worked for can be lost. Thanks again, Woodcrest.
Thanks so much, Tony. I have a lot of respect for a man willing to grow out a beard.
So that's pretty much all I have to say, other than I just mentioned the emotional fitness. This past year I also took a recovery class through my church, and I now work at a drug and alcohol counseling center, and it's kind of ironic I got kicked out of College of the Ozarks twice for alcohol reasons, but I actually don't and have never had an alcohol issue, but we all have issues that we do need to recover from. We might not realize it, but there's definitely an emotional aspect to growing up and life situations, life circumstances, and the more you can grasp and get a hold of your past and how it affects your future and work on your emotional health, the more success you can have in everything else in life. Emotional, spiritual, and financial, or emotional, physical, and financial fitness are all interrelated. If you're off in one area, it can affect the other areas. You know, like if my financial health, fitness is off, then my emotional health can be messed up. If my emotional health is messed up, I might eat more because of that. You know, a lot of people struggling with obesity and eating issues is because of an emotional issue. And so these are all interrelated and things to work on. And so I would just encourage everyone in here to work on those areas. And then also going back to the financial thing, if you end up with a huge financial debt and burden, you might not be able to pursue your passions in life. And you know, what your chosen career is, you might, you know, have too big a debt load and have to do something else to make enough money to pay off those bills, and you might miss out on an opportunity that you would really love to do because of, you know, because of your debt. So I guess that's all I have to say. Does anyone have questions? And I'll leave these links up as, you know, resources if anyone wants writing them down. And then feel free to, you know, if you want to take a look at, like, you know, what's in the financial piece materials, or, you know, I guess questions anyone?
As somebody who was so active, then to have that happen to you and not be able to run or bike or swim or whatever, how did that affect your compliance as a patient? You know, I know personally when I'm injured, it's very hard for me to stick to the treatment regimen because you keep thinking, oh, I could do it, I could do it. Did you have any issues related to that?
Right away I started like walking, and you know, my biggest issue actually wasn't, I think, with my doctors, it was with my girlfriend, because she didn't want me doing much, and I was pretty convinced that the sooner I started walking, and you know, because you know, I've had surgeries before where they like right away they get you up and start you walking, and so that's what I did. And yeah, there might have been some, I might have pushed the envelope on, you know, just trying to run too soon, but you know, I didn't have any issues, you know, everything went well.
Running with your jaw wired shut?
Yeah, no, that was never. No, I think I had the clearance to do that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people would think I'm accident prone, and maybe I am because I have some other stories that, you know. So, yeah. 2011, which was one of my best years, as I mentioned, because of, you know, I trained really hard running wise. I ended up getting a sports hernia because I think I maybe overtrained and was training too hard. You know, I got all those PRs, and then I ended up getting pain, and so funny stories. I still kept racing because I figured out I could use duct tape, and but eventually it did heal, because and actually my doctor was cool with that, because he's like, you know, it's with the sports hernia, the pain will slow you down. If it's painful, you know, you'll slow down. And they actually aren't sure if it's the surgery that they do that heals the sports hernia, or if it's the forced layoff. And so we're talking with another doctor, and he just had backed off, and he healed up eventually, and so that's what I did. And that's how I got healing from that. So. Anyone in here a runner or triathlete already? Definitely, if you aren't already a member of Columbia Multisport Club. And actually, yeah. It's not in here. Yeah, yes.
So where do you work now? Do you still work part-time?
I work for Phoenix Programs Incorporated. It's a drug and alcohol counseling center. Somehow I ended up in this track where I work for nonprofits a lot. And, I'm actually feel like I'm doing, you know, some good for society, because, you know, we're helping people with, you know, drug and alcohol issues, and, you know, emotional and mental health issues. And, you know, I'm recording this. That might be something that I can eventually, you know, do as an education group for some of our clients. You know, talk about physical fitness and emotional and financial fitness.
Well, it's definitely a great presentation. I think we should all give him a round of applause. If no one has any more questions, thank you very much for coming to Eat, Listen, Learn presentation.